I can feel the power, I can feel the power. Feel the power. Yeah, money that is time and hour. Time and hour. Yeah, well, I better activate the power. I'ma activate it, gotta make it, gotta chase it. I don't care what they be saying, I'ma do it now. And I've been really saving, I ain't giving up and I ain't giving in. Do it now for the dividends, I'll be on the path, I just gotta get it. Cause I got my mind on some bigger things. So man, I ain't gonna give in now, I just gotta live this now. I be gonna be when I'ma kill this stuff real quick. I'ma go take it to town, cause I gotta be that king in the ring. When I'm knocking them out, when I'm back with the wheel. Cause I am just up on the journey, just know that I'm just going insane.
Hey, welcome to Over the Top. This is Saucey, and I'm here with John Cable. We're going to be talking about Powerslap #1 coming up this Saturday. We're going to do a little preview of the show. We're going to do some predictions, and I'm going to sell you on why you have to watch this card on Rumble. That's 9 p.m. on Saturday night. John, you weren't planning on watching this card. Is that right?
No, I was definitely not intending to watch that. In fact, at 9 p.m. on Saturday, I will be hopefully getting off of work and heading home.
Well, you're in luck because it's airing on Rumble, which will have the replay, and you'll be able to watch it Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, whenever you want. In fact, the entire Powerslap series, which is a subsidiary of UFC and is another Dana White product. The entire series is on Rumble, readily available to watch on demand at all times. It's also been airing on TBS after AEW Dynamite, so you can watch this at your own leisure. There's a ton of slap fighting content out there already between Slap Fight, Slap Mountain was my personal favorite, and there's a ton of others. They all are trying to get mainstream coverage and notoriety. I think this probably has the best chance of doing that. So, John, you remember what it was like when UFC began, right?
I do. It was literally the Wild West of fight shows, and it was nuts, and everything was crazy. And the first few go-ats that they made at it, they didn't really have a lot of rules, and there were a lot of crazy things that happened, and I'm glad to hear that this is actually slimmed down on that a bit and has really kind of reined in on what they were really planning off in the beginning here. That I know there was some controversy about some of the rulings that they were looking at, and you were telling me off camera that they've made a lot of good rules about pivots and how you can move and what you can do, and they've got a lot of safety squad on, so I think this should be interesting to say the least. At best, I think that Powerslap probably does have the best shot at gaining mainstream, if for no other reason than having UFC money behind it.
Yeah, so if I can sell the product a little bit here, I think people that are watching this video either were already intending on watching Powerslap or they're just curious, right? But some noticeable differences here is that this event is not being held inside a Teamster Hall. It's not being held inside a room inside a hotel. It's not being held in somebody's backyard or on the side of a mountain somewhere. This thing is going to be held in a professional arena. Now, I don't know what the attendance of that room is going to be. I would expect it to be a good crowd, probably akin to what you would see like an indie show, like a Ring of Honor or an Impact show. In addition to that, you've got the broadcasting rights already set up, between TBS, Rumble, and a couple other networks that are
Yeah,
in
that's and
production.
that's where the UFC money and the UFC pockets goes for the marketing budget and the network connections and things like that.
Yes.
That's they're only gonna go and produce shows that they think have got legs to go, and having that kind of money backing you is easy target for them.
Yeah, this is kind of business as usual. And you would agree that UFC is a fine tuned product at this time. They are a money printing
So I
machine.
mean, as far as their shows go, and as far as the way they work their market, yeah, I think they've got that down pat. He's been doing this long enough that they know exactly what they're doing when they want to print some money. Machine go burr.
Yeah. For me personally, the UFC product is a little too commercialized. As soon as they switched over to the Reebok jerseys and these guys weren't allowed to have their own sponsors anymore, it lost some of the personal flavor for me.
Yep.
In this case, I think commercializing this sport, which is regarded as barbaric and stupid and unathletic, gives it some legitimacy. Putting these guys in jerseys and giving them corporate sponsorships, not only does it validate who they are, but if you watch the stories from these guys, they are not lifelong athletes. They're not folks that are coming from affluent backgrounds or have trained with prestigious gyms. They're not second generation fighters. These are everyday people that you've ran into.
Realistically, if they were any of those things, they would be those other things.
Well, a lot of the guys that are here are MMA fighters who no longer fight in the cage for whatever reason.
So do they all have like an injury or a family issue or something going on that keeps them out of it, or are they
Every
just not
guy's got a
cut out for
story,
it?
right? Every guy's got a story. They either had a behavioral issue and they washed out, or they had an injury. There are some guys who they started a family at the wrong time and they couldn't pursue their dream. There are some that just live in neighborhoods where they can't escape poverty. There are some who have had drug addiction, alcohol addiction. The stories from these guys is so much better from anything I've seen in professional wrestling or in the UFC, because it feels like this is your neighbor. It feels like this is the
Well,
common
because it
man.
is.
This is the blue collar worker, the guy that's paycheck to paycheck, struggling to get by, and it feels like if every fight matters. If they lose, there is no tomorrow. It's really been
Well,
an
it's got the
experience.
replacements feel to it, huh?
Yeah, yes it does. Yes it does. And you really get behind these guys. You know, they got one shot. In most situations it's one slap. They're taking one hit and that's it. That could be
And they're
their
all,
shot
and they're
could be gone.
and they're like and they're coming up on stage, mom's spaghetti, the whole nine.
Yes. Yeah, it's wild.
Man,
They plan and train for weeks or months to get on the show, and it could be over in a flash.
how do you train to get smacked in the face as hard as possible?
Well, it's funny that you mention that because if you watch the show, you see they do a lot of pro training at the UFC training center, where they take different biometric readings like the pounds of pressure per strike, the neck force of each guy, of course the measurements, the weight, the height, all of that, the reach. They have done their best to really give you a tale of the tape. However, I don't know which of those things mean anything in slap fighting because I'm a filthy casual. So I have a feeling that 3 or 4 cards in, it's going to start to click and people are going to get wise. You're going to have smart marks who are going to be able to call this stuff, and they'll know just by the measurements, just by the metrics, exactly who should win these fights. What I
You
really
should.
You should, and that's what makes it fun,
You
right?
can, man, you can run all the numbers you want, but you're talking about a dude standing up to another dude and getting smacked in the mouth.
You're absolutely
You can,
right.
you can run all the numbers all day long, and it comes down to how hard that guy can get hit without falling over.
there are a few factors here that need to be considered when we do these picks. The first is, how hard can somebody slap somebody else, right? That's a no-brainer. That's, and some of these guys they're just killers. They could slap a tree trunk down. But some of these guys have
popping over 900 psi's.
I don't have the numbers on these guys, but if you watch the first episode, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. In addition to measuring their strike force, they also measure their resistance of their necks. And there's one guy in particular that you will love. He's in a metal band, and his training is just headbanging. And he's got the strongest neck on the show, and he is legit. He can eat any strike that he gets hit with, and
he's automatically my favorite. Yeah, he's like, you would be surprised how well that would actually train your neck.
He's the star of the show right now. He's the crowd favorite. Unfortunately, he's going against a guy who's just an absolute monster, a guy that trains for the Highlander Games, and he wanted to be an Olympic shot put athlete and just fell short of it. So the guy, his technique is good, and he's just a monster. So we'll get to that. That's the co-main.
Now I'm kind of interested.
I'm telling you, there's more to this than just bum fights, right? That's what people are comparing this to, and this is not the
same. That's not what this is. That's not what slap fight is. It's not what any of these are. That's not quite an accurate representation of what this sport is.
But if you go through the Rumble videos, or if you go on the Twitter page for Slap Fight News and you read the comments, they are so salty. It's 90% salt. But what they have done is they've said, you know what? All publicity is good publicity. Leave the comments. Let people be salty, and we'll prove them wrong. So
I love the approach.
If you want a good laugh, just read through those comments. And people, really, it's like any other business. People are defensive about their product. They're loyal to their team. If you're a UFC guy, you want to say UFC is superior to wrestling or slap fighting. If you are a WWE guy, you want to say UFC is garbage and that AEW is a mud show. And if you're an AEW guy, you want to say, no, AEW is where it's at. Well, all three of those groups all dislike Powerslap. But I'm here to tell you guys that it's legit and it's a lot of fun and it's worth a try. So we've got 13 matches here on the card. That's another great part of this, is that you can run through matches very quickly and you can get a lot of stories in a short amount of time. So
I bet.
I want to jump into these and get going. So you can see the card here in front of you, and I'll attach images to the video as well so you can follow along at home. The first match of the night, we've got Jules Scott versus Robert Trujillo. Am I butchering that?
You butchered it. Absolutely.
Well, how is it pronounced? Robert?
I have no idea, but I know you butchered it.
Trujillo? Trujillo. That's what it is. Well, I'm giving him a bad rap here by getting the name wrong. Jules Scott is the one that I know. And this is a lightweight match, so they're utilizing UFC weight class divisions, meaning that lightweight would be 150 pounds, 155 maximum. They've also got welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, heavyweight, and super heavyweight. So in this lightweight matchup, 155 pounds, I mean, this is like an average guy on the street that you would not even notice if you walked by him. This is not a monster that hide your kids, hide your wife.
Me for sure.
This is these are just regular guys. So Jules Scott he's actually got a lot of charisma. This guy is a lot of fun to watch. He can talk trash, and he made it pretty far on the show before he got put to sleep. Robert Trujillo on the other hand, I think he went out early. He's jacked. He's in very good shape. But what
Looks like
I've
he's got a massive neck.
yes, I mean this guy is solid muscle, 155 solid muscle. But what I've noticed is that the guys that are all muscle don't have as strong of a chin. For that reason, I'm going with Jules Scott in this one. There are no Vegas odds on these matches. I do have the Vegas odds on the main card, but not on the undercard. So I'll get you those later. But I think Jules Scott is the way to go, and I'm rooting for the guy. He's a good dude. He shows his kids on the show and how important this is to his family. Like, your heart goes out to these guys who put themselves out there like that. And he seems like a good father too. It's some of these guys are kind of scummy, and he does not seem scummy at all.
He's got the decent dude vibes from you, huh?
He does, but he's a decent, like, he's a soccer dad that you would not fuck with, because he'll lay your ass down. But he would keep to himself. He actually reminds me a lot of Mike Tomlin from the Steelers. They have similar characteristics. But yeah, there you go. The next match, we've got Reese Archer and Travis Aragon. I don't remember these guys a whole lot. I think Reese was on the show. I don't remember Travis. This is a middleweight matchup, so that'll be 185 pounds. I'm going with Reese on this one because this is the dude that's got scars all over his face. Like, you see this guy in a bar and you go, no thanks. Like, he steps on your shoes, you say, no worries. No, that's Reese Archer.
Reese Archer's got all the scars, huh?
Yeah. And he's not somebody to be trifled with. I mean, he just kind of exudes that. I mean, a lot of these guys really exude that alpha male
They're in
aura.
a slap fight, man. Come on.
Yeah, well, they put all these guys in a house and made them live together for like a few weeks. And most of them kept it together. There was a couple guys who got really sassy inside the house, and we'll get to who they are. Okay, the next match, Dane Viernes and Robert Ricondo. They were not on the show, so I had to look them up. This is a super heavyweight match, which I assume means that it's unlimited weight or open weight, because Dane Viernes looked like a much bigger dude from what I could tell.
Yeah, I don't think they have a cap on super heavies.
No, that would be 265 plus. Robert Ricondo did not look anywhere near the size. So just based on the size differential here, I'm going with Dane. And this one may be a bit of a freak show here. I think this is a wild card matchup that they threw in just for fun to fill the card. I
bet the little guy knocks his brains out.
Yeah, that would be cool, but from what I've seen, that's not usually the case. All right, the next match, Alex Asbury versus Andrew Provost. Originally, it's supposed to be Paul Teague in that matchup, but he was replaced by Andrew. I didn't catch the reason for that. That's something that just happened this week. Alex Asbury was on the show earlier and did not make it to the main show because somebody slapped his lip off his face. He got hit so hard it ripped his lip, and he got sent home.
Well, damn.
However, before that happened, the other guy was rocked and was almost KO'd. So he's got power. Andrew Provost was in the house, and he was kind of forgettable in the house. So I don't know what to expect here, but
Provost might go over.
Yeah, I'm going to take Provost as well because I think for him this means more. He's getting a third shot here to prove something. He wasn't. Oof. He didn't make it through in the house. He wasn't on the card originally, and then he got added in as an alternate here. So I'm going to go with Provost as well.
Yeah.
Next match is Frank the Tank Holland versus Dorian Perez. And Frank is an absolute monster. He's an internet legend, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah,
And
you
he's
don't
got
get
a
a
big,
moniker like the Tank for nothing, dude.
right?
Come on.
He's got a big, strong beard. I think this is the only sport where having a beard is helpful. It's a big advantage
So
because,
scientifically speaking, that is accurate.
yeah. So why is that though? Does it pad some,
It does.
absorb
It
some of the
does
strike?
actually. It does spread the strike force out across your face better. And this is scientifically accurate. They've done plenty of studies on this. This is a legit thing. Having a big, thick beard does, in fact, reduce the impact blow from a straight face shot. And it's actually why our species still grows beards, because that was our defense in hand-to-hand combat against each other in territories.
I bet if Alex Asbury had a beard, he would not have had his lip slapped off his face.
I bet not.
There has to be something to that. So I would bet that most of these up and comers in this sport start growing beards just for that reason, or maybe they grow it on one side of their face. I don't know.
Nah, dude, some of these dudes have been growing their beards for years. You
Oh
don't
yeah,
get
yeah.
inches like that. Like, trust me, you don't. This takes a year, 2 years at least
Oh yeah.
to get to there. So
No, this
yeah,
dude
some of
Frank
these guys have been
Holland,
growing these for a while.
he looks like he started his beard in about third grade, and he just keeps it tight. But it's very strong. He could hide weapons in there, and you'd never know it. I'm taking Frank here. I don't know anything about Dorian Perez, but I do, just based on Frank's reputation, I'm going with him.
I mean, I got to back the Tank here.
Yeah. Next match, Russell Rivero versus Isaiah Quinones. Russell was in the house. He was on the show. And this dude is made of muscle. He's a Hawaiian dude and seems like such a good dude. Being on that show meant so much to his family. It's something that they needed. And he just got knocked out cold. Was just
That's rough.
way out. And
So he might have a glass jaw.
I don't know. I was shocked to see it happen, because the guy, I mean, he looks like a beast, right? He's a brick shit house.
Yeah, he does. I mean, Isaiah over there's got a hell of a chin on him, though.
Yes, he does. I'm gonna root for Russell Rivera here. I mean, I need him to win, and I'm not gonna bet against him.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
So you're gonna take Isaiah?
Yeah,
Just-
I think I'm
just-
going to go with Isaiah.
You're
'Cause
probably
that dude's
right.
chin, man. Good lord.
He does look like he has a stronger chin, and Russell has proved to have. I don't want to say he's weak in his chin, but he's proven that he can get knocked out, because
Yeah, that's
he
rough.
had one of the worst. I mean, he got posterized on the show.
That might make him gun shy, too.
Yeah, I don't get that vibe from him. He seems like the type, if you hit him with a truck, he'd just get up and just continue on with his day. Like, he doesn't have a short fuse. Like, the dude is just stoic. It's the best way to put it.
Well, I mean, that might serve him well. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he's getting another chance here. It's another paycheck for the guy, which I think is awesome. Emmanuel Muniz versus Wesley Drain, and both of these guys were in the house. Wesley has a strong chin. He got hit so hard in his first match that a golf ball sized lump swelled up on the side of his face, and he was still taking hits in this lump on the side of his face.
That's hard.
He looks like he's been slapped a lot on the left side of his face. So he may have some scarring or something there, but he can take a shot. He just seems like the kind of guy who's like, for $20, I'll let anybody punch me in the face as hard as they can, and he'll just take it and then go home with the money. Like
I
the
mean, that's
dude just
probably a good bar trick.
right. He seems like the type.
They're like,
And
hey, punch me in the face for bar tabs.
yes, yep. He can also hit very well. This is a middleweight matchup, 185 pounds. Emmanuel Muniz was in the house, and he's not an intimidating guy, right? He's got this sideshow bob haircut, and
Well, he looks like I feel like Cholo was hanging out.
yeah, yes, he looks like
Like he just seems like he wants to be a party guy.
what's what's his name in WWE? Carlito. He looks like Carlito a little
Oh
bit.
yeah, all right, I can
Yeah.
see that.
Um, I'm gonna go with Wesley here, but it's gonna be on points, right? So they go to points if there's no knockout. After 3 rounds, they go to points. If you club, if you pivot your foot, if you go on the wrong count, if there are several different fouls that you can commit here.
So it can come really just down to technique and technicals.
Yes, yeah, and I mean, it's very important that you follow the technique here.
Well, I'm gonna take the dude that can take a lump on the chin legitimately and keep on trucking.
That
'Cause
guy,
that sounds like the guy to bet on.
yeah, I'm going with Wesley here. The next match is probably the most famous guy on the show, Slap Jesus versus Waylon Frost. And Slap Jesus has the most charisma on the show.
Waylon Frost was on a European tour of a slap fight they did over there.
Okay, tell me a little bit about that.
I've seen him take hits. He did not win his matches, but he did not get knocked out, and his technique is pretty solid. So that's funny that they've pulled some other talent. This is the first guy on the card that I've actually heard of before that I know for sure I've heard of. But I have seen him take some shots, and he's got a solid chin on him. He doesn't deliver heavy hands, but he can take hits.
Well, Slap Jesus is the most unconventional guy on this entire show. And they give you a 3 count before you have to throw your slap, right? So you line up your hand for measurement, and then you can you get a couple wind back,
Little wind ups, yeah.
and you wind up. So you say right hand on 3, and then you deliver. Well, Slap Jesus says, "One hand of God," right? And he doesn't even measure. He doesn't even measure. He just drops his hand to the ground and he squats, and then he just does a rising uppercut slap to the face on 1 every time, just out of nowhere. And he's the only guy I've ever seen it. He'll do it on 1. He's knocked guys out with it, but he's also been he got knocked out like very badly by Killer Chris, who we're going to get to later.
It sounds like a one-trick pony to me. If it's either you get that shot off or you get annihilated.
Well, it's going to come down to the coin toss. Whoever wins the coin toss and goes first is going to win that match, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet on Frost to have the put away power in 1 or 2. So I don't know much about this Slap Jesus guy, but that sounds like an interesting technique. I think if he ever goes to points, he might be shit out of luck.
Yeah. I think for the sake of Powerslap as an organization, having characters like him involved and having them do well bodes well for the company. They have a vested they have a vested interest in doing everything they can to make sure that he succeeds here, but he's got to do it on his own. So I'm going to say that he does, because things tend to work out, right? Waylon Frost probably. Well, I don't know. I don't know what to think about that guy.
Like I said, I wouldn't bet on him to put him out in 2 shots.
Right. So I'm gonna say Slap Jesus, but it'll come down to the coin toss. Whoever wins the coin toss, I think, will win. All right, next match, heavyweight matchup. 2 guys that were in the house, Damian Dibble and Dwayne Crespo. Both of these guys are solid slap fighters.
This one looks like a freaking bear, dude.
Yeah, they're both big dudes, but they're both kind of mild-mannered, and they laid low. They weren't stars of the show. And it's a toss-up. I think it's a 50-50 here. I'm going to go with Damian Dibble here because he just seemed to have more swagger in the house. Just based on confidence, but I think it'll go to points. And I think he'll just barely eke it out based on the points.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Crispo on this. That dude looks like a monster.
He's not. I hear what you're saying. I don't want to. I don't want to say anything too mean about him. Okay, now we get into the main card here. That's these. Let's see. I got them right there. And let me see if I can get the Vegas odds up here. So that's another side of this, is that Vegas is taking bets on maybe not all of these fights, but certainly on the main card of the show.
Well, I mean, I'd imagine the undercard is probably too wild of a guess for them to put odds down and put money out.
Well, I'd be interested to hear if that's something that has to be orchestrated by Powerslap. If they have to submit the card ahead of time in order for Vegas to post it, or if it's a case of Vegas doing it on their own. But I would assume that Dana White had something to do with Vegas hosting that.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
So this first fight with KO Chris versus Jesus Gaspar Diaz. Chris Thomas is an absolute monster. And if you look at the odds in Vegas, I mean, he's, what is that? Plus 300. So that's like,
Ooh.
what, like 4, 5, 6, 7 to 1.
Yeah.
He's minus 400. So you'd have to bet $400. You have to bet $4 to win $1 back. Something, I believe that's how it works. I'm not much of a gambler.
That's heavy towards Chris, yeah.
Heavy. Jesus is a guy who's got a very strong chin. When he tenses up to take a shot, it's like he's sucking on a lemon, right? Like all the muscles on his face pop out. Like the dude can take a hit. I don't think Jesus is going to get knocked out here, but he faults a lot. He lost his first 2 fights because of pivots and because of clubbing.
Yeah, that technique's got to be on point, man.
KO Chris has got the technique. He's also won the coin toss here, so we know that in advance. So everything is on his side. He's got a win streak going right now. He's got the technique. He's got the power. He's got the coin.
Yeah, that seems like a no-brainer.
It seems like a no-brainer, which is why it's opening up the main card. An actual title belt is on the line there, so that'll be the welterweight title, 170 pounds maximum. Jesus is a good dude. He's a guy that lives in a really rough neighborhood, and he lives with his mom, and he would love to get her out of that situation. This could be the ticket to get there. So it's like this Cinderella story. He seems like a nice guy too, but you've kind of dealt him this hand of like, what are you going to do? I mean, you can't chop down a tree with your bare hands.
He got to the match on his merits, so let's see what he's got. Maybe he does something with it.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for him because if he loses, he doesn't really lose a whole lot because KO Chris is the favorite. He's been the number 1 ranked guy since the beginning of the show. But if he wins...
Yeah, everybody will just look at it like, oh, yeah, that's what we expected to happen.
Right, he was supposed to lose. If he wins, it's like he took out the best guy. Does that make him the best guy? I mean, maybe. But he took out the best guy.
Man, you got to beat the man. That's the saying, right?
Yes. So, I mean, it's going to be KO Chris, but I would love to see an upset here, and it would be a shocking upset. All right, the next match here for the middleweight title, that's 185 pounds. The Machine, John Davis versus El Perro. I can't do the R. Can you do the R?
Nope.
No.
El
Nope.
Perro.
El Perro, the dog.
There you go.
Azael Rodriguez, and Azael was the guy in the house that wanted to fight everybody.
Yeah, I was about to say, he looks like he has a hell of a chip on his shoulder.
He does. He does. He wants to fight everybody. So Dana White was nice enough to stock the house with Howling Monkey rum. It's like a banana rum, which I haven't had. And his own line of beers. And I guess Dana's got his fingers in all kinds of different products.
Oh, yeah, dude.
But
you want to talk about diversifying incomes?
Yes.
That man's got it going on.
So all these branded alcohols were stocked in the house. They wanted these guys to fight, or else they wouldn't have filled the house with all this booze, right? It's part of the show. It's a production. And he's the guy that took it up on himself to fight everybody. So everybody in the house got pissed off at him. They took his bed and they threw it in the swimming pool. And they told him,
I think I saw that. I think I saw that clip of all the stuff I might have seen. I think I saw that.
No. They put it on the tennis courts. They put it on the tennis court. And they said, no, you sleep outside. We don't want you here. And then he said, well, I'm going to sleep in someone else's bed. And they said, no, you piss your bed. You smell like piss. Nobody else is sleeping in your bed. So, I mean, they tried to dog this guy pretty bad. But he can fight. Like, he runs his mouth constantly, and he's completely unlikable. But he can go. So, it's like he backs it up. Everybody wants this guy to lose. And let's see where Vegas has got it. Vegas has got him minus 130. So he's actually the favorite to win. So you'd have to,
but not by a lot. Like that's not horrible, but
no, it's almost even money there. Right? Well, you'd have to bet. You have to bet 130 to win 100. Yeah. So I mean, he's still the favorite to win. John Davis is plus 100. So I forget how that works. Anyway, so he's not favored to win the match. I'm going with Azael. Again, he's got the coin toss on his side here. And in these title fights, I should add that these are 5 rounds instead of the standard 3 rounds. So you're going to get 5 strikes. Typically, you don't see.
I'm going with the Machine on it, dude. He's got a lot of clout to pick up here.
He's got a big head. He's got a big, strong head. He looks like he can take shots, a lot of shots. But Azael's he's just nasty. He's the kind of guy you just love to hate him.
Dude, the forearms on Davis, though.
So Davis's story is that he's ex-military, and he blew out his shoulder and was honorably discharged from the military. He would love to be, an MMA fighter or, some other kind of athlete. He just can't do it.
But he is, right.
He's got a great right hand. He doesn't need his left arm.
The forearms on this guy is ridiculous.
Yes. So, yeah, it could go either way, but
I'm going with Davis.
Okay, well, I'm going with Azael here. All right, the next match is the guy I'm talking about. Vernon Cathy, the mechanic. He's an actual mechanic, and he's the guy that trains for the Highland Games. He's a former shot putter as well.
Set up arms on him too, boy.
Yeah. He's got like farm strength, like.
He's got mechanic strength. He's been turning wrenches his whole life.
Yes, yeah. His grip strength is unreal. This guy just flips tires just for fun and for work.
My dad was a shade tree mechanic, and he tore engines apart for money and turned in scrap weight and made ingots out of the aluminum. My dad was unbelievably strong for a very thin man.
Yeah, I bet this guy's hands are just calluses, just solid calluses.
Yeah, 100%. Scarred up, gnarled knots.
But he's the nicest dude. He's like somebody you would run into at the Renfest, just like
working the blacksmith shop, doing his thing.
Middle class suburban dad, who works. He's got a little bit of land, just getting by. Packing up the kids, taking them out fishing on the weekend. Like, nothing special about the guy. He's average middle American dad. But he hits harder than anybody. This dude that he was in a match with, he had this rockin' mullet, and he got knocked out so hard. Dana White says that is the knockout of the century. That is, he said that's the most incredible knockout I've ever seen.
Yeah, I
And
think Hintz has got his night cut out for him.
when you see Vernon, Kathy, you'll see how he lines up. It's like he's getting ready to shot put like a 50-pound cannonball. Like, just lines it up, perfect technique, just turns at the waist, and just throws a bomb every time.
Probably what his hand is a 50-pound cannonball.
Yeah, I don't know. The dude's nuts. And he also won the coin toss. So he is.
Yeah, Hintz has got a night for him.
But if you look at the Vegas odds here, you'll see this is a 50-50. Right? They're calling it dead even in Vegas. And here's why. Static, that's AJ Hintz. This is the guy I was telling you about, the headbanger, the guy that's in a punk.
Oh, man.
I think it's punk. It might be speed metal or some kind of heavy rock. He's the dude that wears the spiked chain or the spiked collar around his neck. He's got these big gauges in his ears. He's got dreadlocks. And the dude just headbangs for fun constantly. He's got the strongest neck on the show as measured by by the machines at the training center. And the guy is fearless. He's not afraid he'll fight anybody for any reason.
Mosh pits. What do you want?
Yeah. Yes. He says that he owns mosh pits. He just dares people to hit him like, please hit me. I would love for you to hit me. Go ahead, dog. I'll just eat it.
That's why you get in a mosh pit. If you don't get in a mosh pit to get hit in the face, you got in the mosh pit for the wrong reason.
So this guy defensively, probably the best chin, the best neck in the whole field. Once again, this is a
light. This might be match of the night, to be fair.
This is a light heavyweight matchup. Both of these guys need to cut weight to get the light heavyweight. So these guys are walking around at 220. Well, maybe they were 220.
All dehydrated and shit.
They've had to lose weight to get on the show. Let's face it, a lot of these guys are soft, especially at the higher weight classes. AJ's never fought at 205. He's always been a higher weight or at a catch weight. So in order for him to get there, his focus is going to be changed a little bit because he's got to weigh in. But he made the weigh in because they did the coin toss, and they're fighting at 205. So Vegas is.
I think this one might be the match of the night.
It is. This is the one that everybody wants to see. Of course, the main event is the coaches' fight, but this is the one. If you watch the show, they're the two guys that came out of the show looking unstoppable. KO Chris is probably the third guy, but with him being in a lighter weight class, maybe he doesn't have as much shine. The pound for pound, KO Chris is the man, but I think you want to see big meaty men slapping meat for those big titles, and that's what you got here with Vernon and AJ. Who are you taking, John?
That's rough. I gotta go with the metalhead. I think that the neck strength here is gonna be the factor, and I don't know the dude's gonna have it to put him out.
I'm gonna take Vernon, although I could see AJ winning. I think for Vernon, it's just another day at work. Like, he's going to show up, he's going to hit the dude once, and he's going to leave. Not even going to celebrate. It's just going to be like, sweet.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you underestimate the neck strength of a metalhead.
No, trust me, I get it. I mean, he's proved it. He can take punches. I don't know. Yeah, you can make a strong case for both of these guys. In a 5-round match, I don't know how much abuse you can give each other. I don't know how much you spend on that first strike. Do you gas out?
Oh, you try but you try to everything you've got, dude.
Right, but
first one, especially if you win the toss, you got to lay this dude on the floor and keep him there so he never touches you.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only play.
So when it goes to points, you get 2 rounds in, and this guy, he's not wobbled yet. He's still looking at you and smiling. It's like, shit, what do I do now? And now
Right.
you got to win on points. Hope the other guy has some type of fault, which neither of these guys have faulted at all.
So that means technique is on point, and that's why they're in this fight.
Yeah, I'm going to go Vernon just because he's got the coin toss.
I think Hintz can take the first shot, and as soon as he doesn't crumble on the first one, I think Kathy's got a hard night.
Well, he does, but his confidence won't be phased at all. He doesn't run his mouth, So AJ's going to want him to play
Well,
that
like
game.
you said, it's just another day at work for him. He comes
Yep.
in, he does the job, he goes home.
Yep.
No worries. But it's got to get in your head when you've hit this guy 3 times and he's still grinning at you, like you said. Like, what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move to the main event. Wrap it up here. This is a heavyweight title fight, 265-pound maximum. You've got Ron, I don't know if it's Bata or Beta, Ron Bata versus the Wolverine versus the Destroyer Darius Mata Verona. And the story here is that they've faced each other 3 times already, and the Destroyers won every match. The last time they had a match together, it was 27 rounds.
What the
And it was in one of those, underground mud show situations that were,
Wow.
not a lot of attention was paid to the medical well-being of the participants. Now you've got a whole different story here where you're putting
All right,
two.
but wait. You said 27 rounds?
Yeah, it was a record for the most rounds for a slap fight.
Yeah, that's impressive.
So
Either the guys hitting each other are not giving everything they got, or those dudes have granite chins.
yeah, I mean Ron's face was very swollen, it's bleeding. It was rough.
Yeah, dude, 27 shots in. Yeah,
That
it
is
better be.
that is barbaric, right? It's like whipping Jesus, right? At a certain point, you got to go. Oh, enough, guys. Let's call it a draw.
Which
that's
is
good
why we
enough.
have point systems.
Yes, yeah, and a draw would be fine. A draw would be fine. I think that if we want this sport to have legitimacy, you can't say we want blood. We need to collect a scalp.
Yeah, no.
You
No,
go
it's gonna have to be
under
like
based
soccer.
on the rules that we provided. This is the result, and we can run it back again and have a rematch. But this is what we agreed to. This is for the safety of the fighters, and this is a sport that's recognized by the Las Vegas Sports Athletic Commission. So
Yep.
they must withhold those regulations that they have agreed to.
So what's Vegas got going on up there?
Vegas is heavily favoring the Destroyer, which makes sense.
If he's won the last 3 times.
He's won the only 3 times between them. They both seem like good dudes. As coaches, they're kind of making it up as they go because this sport is still very new. But they're guys that you wouldn't mind working with. No ego between these guys. They offer a lot of guidance to some of the less experienced guys. So good dudes. Ron has MMA a background in MMA. Transitioned over to the slap fighting. I don't believe Darius has a similar background, but he's really good at this. I don't know that he's been beaten before either, so my money is certainly on the Destroyer. I mean, that's the safe bet here.
Yeah, if he's won every match, that seems like probably the idea. I guarantee this one goes to points.
It does. Yes. It absolutely goes to points. They prove that they're equally
They matched.
matched.
Cannot knock each other out.
Correct. They both can take a slap, and they both
24 slaps.
refuse to back down. It'll go 5 rounds. It'll go to the judges. It'll probably be, I don't know how many points per round they assign, but it'll be like 3 rounds to 2 or something along those lines. And the Destroyer probably comes out on top. So those are the picks. The question is, what does Powerslap have to do in order for this night to be a success for the company?
I think that they need to have decent ratings. They need to have no controversy. They need to keep all of the slappers safe, and they've got to have no like negative backlash.
I'm going to disagree a little bit there because they have to do something that's interesting. They have to, there needs to be spectacle here. One of these guys can go off, and they need to show what happens when somebody does go to business for themselves and they take a run at somebody in the crowd or something like that, and security stops them. These guys are slap fighters, but they're not MMA fighters anymore.
Right.
They're not fully equipped lethal weapons. They're kind of one-trick ponies. So if you've got a strong security force here, it'll allow fans to feel comfortable to be there and to buy tickets for the next event. The production quality's got to be insane.
Oh yeah, it's got to look like $1 million.
What they have working in their favor is that there are no ropes, there are no cages. It's going to be easily viewable by everybody in that arena. If they can put together great entrances for these guys with good music, and they bring an entourage, and it becomes this very fun spectacle event, then it's going to work. If they put together strong vignette packages before the fights, which are relatively short, that will help suck people in, especially casual people. If they humanize the event and make it seem like, look, these aren't animals. These are real people. They have families. They have jobs. This is their ticket. This is their one chance to become something more than what they are. That's going to work in their favor. If they can do all these things and they can introduce some characters that are memorable, then they've got something. That's what it took with the original UFC. There were
you're not wrong.
There were some gimmicks, no doubt, and there were some things that were embarrassing. When you look back at it, just how goofy some of the things were. But they figured those things out, and the product got better every year for the next 10 years. So the bar is nowhere here. The bar here is Slab Mountain, West Virginia. As long as they do better than that, it's a step in the right direction. But if you want to compare them to UFC, you want to compare them to WWE, it's not the same product. They have to set themselves apart and say, look, this is a different flavor. You're not getting the same thing. You're getting something different, but good. It's not wrestling. It's not boxing. It's not MMA. This is something new. If they can achieve that, then this thing is going to get picked up by HBO, or it'll get picked up for distribution on some other channel. That 10 p.m. time slot on TBS is a good jumping off point, but it's not everything that you need it to be. You need those networks, those secondary networks, to put it in prime time.
Right. Well, and that's where the reach from UFC comes in.
Yes. Yeah, Dana has connections. You would expect he's going to utilize all of them. This is a passion project for him, something that he discovered. I mean, he didn't discover it, but when he finally ran into it, he said, wow, this is great. There's something here. If you could monetize this, this could really take off, because everybody feels like I could do that.
Well, I mean, not everybody, but there's a lot of us for sure.
Like, you could slap somebody. I bet right now you probably know about 3 or 4 people you would love to slap. You know what I mean? And that's what these guys are doing here. So the criticism is that this is barbaric, that you're scrambling their brains, and that this is more dangerous than many other sports. They have to be able to prove that it's not by having intelligent athletes talk about the sport. The coaches are probably their best ambassadors at this point because they've seen more than anybody else. If they can talk about this in a way that makes it feel like it's not Jerry Springer, then they're onto something. It'll work.
Well, I mean, and I agree with you on that, but I think that they do need to really make a they need to make the strong point that they are keeping the safety of the competitors in mind.
Yeah,
And I think that that they've got to really adhere to the regulations and make sure that the guys are being safe. The first couple of injuries that we have on this is a nightmare for this place.
so what you're going to see as far as injuries are broken hands. You're going to see maybe a split lip. You may see you're going to see
You see
knockouts.
some bad neck muscle and tendon injuries. You could see some really nasty things happen.
I don't know if you'll see those immediately.
I'm just
The
saying,
day
dude,
at
a bad club, a bad club can do a lot of damage.
what'll happen with someone who clubs and does something like that, you'll see them get suspended from the organization
I mean,
for
sure,
the
but
safety
then
of
that
the other
guy's
fighters.
neck is ripped apart, and then what for that guy?
No, you're right. You're right. If you do have something catastrophic like that,
I'm just
that
saying,
would
those
be
are the
bad.
kinds of things that they've really got to keep an eye on. Those have to be minimal, minimal.
So you would hope that anybody who makes it to this point has already been thoroughly vetted as somebody who
You would hope.
operates under the rules and will work within those confines without, going off the chain. But you're right, it's only a matter of time before there's a particularly bad incident, somebody takes a bad fall.
Well, I mean, regardless, you can say that this is not as barbaric as people are claiming it, but realistically, all combat sports are barbaric. They just are. And that's the point. We have this innate urge as a species to go fight things. And this is a way to do that without being in full-blown combat.
It's a tough case to make. And this is always going to be the
It's
debate.
it's not a tough case to make. It's not. You look at the guys on this chart right here, this roster of dudes. Every single one of them is doing this because in the end of the day, every one of them could use an extra paycheck.
Yes.
So this is providing a job for a guy that wants to put himself at risk to do a thing. And yes, maybe that is a little bit barbaric, but it's still a grown-ass man walking his ass up on that stage and taking a shot to make a paycheck. And it's up to them to make sure that this is what they want to do.
Yeah, it's the same argument that you can make about NFL players and about boxers who
Sure.
the ones who play for a long time end up not being able to walk or be able to speak clearly because they stayed longer than they should have. But for the
Look at
rest
the
of those
number.
guys,
Look at the number of wrestlers who have got all kinds of health problems and have long-term issues because they stayed in longer than they should have or had a bad fall halfway through their career or just kept doing it.
that's right. I mean, statistically, I think you're more likely to die fishing than fighting.
Accurate.
But you don't see a push to end competitive sports fishing. It's not a fair comparison, and I realize that. But what's important to realize is that if you say, you know what, this shouldn't be allowed, this should be shut down, what you're doing is you're taking away an opportunity from 30 guys who otherwise would not have that opportunity, and you're saying, no, we would rather you have nothing at all, no other recourse. It's the same thing with NFL
Well, that's how you
players.
get drug dealers.
Well, yes.
That's do you want drug dealers? Because that's how you get drug dealers.
The complaint about NFL players is that they take people out of disadvantaged neighborhoods and they use them for other people's entertainment and treat them like they're pieces of meat. And that's true, but they're also providing a life for them, for those people and their families that they would otherwise not be able to achieve.
Well, they're not just them, but the economy around them also, their
True.
entourage and the people that they hire to do work for them and be around them, and their security workers and their, all of the people that they employ to do work.
That's
Their
right.
trainers, and then too, a lot of these guys, they get somewhere and they invest that back into a company that then employs other people. So, like, by saying, the combat sports are barbaric, well, maybe they are, but the ripple effect is also true. And having an outlet for combat specialists or people that happen to have a skill set that not everybody has, like the strongest neck in a slap fight sport.
Yeah.
How many people can claim that? Or how many people want to claim that? But for those that do, shit, let them have their fun.
I would love to see an economy grow around this sport. I'd love to see more people get into it. Maybe people who washed out of other sports who are looking for another avenue, a second chance at being a world-class athlete. I would love to see economies grow around it, clothing lines, gyms.
And if it's successful,
television.
That's all possible.
Yeah. I mean, it feels for the first time that that's very possible. That this isn't just a tough guy competition. That this is legitimate. That there are rules to it, and that it can work. So part of making it legitimate is shows like this, who are actually looking at this thing like it's a real product. That it's not scripted. It's not staged. This isn't theater. These aren't bum fights.
Vegas doesn't put odds on scripted nothing.
It's true. It's true. So for everybody who's watched the show, I want to thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. John, I want to thank you for coming on the show as well. Thank you for talking to me about this brand new budding sport. I know you haven't followed it a whole lot, but you can hear how passionate I am about it. I think that
I can.
There's a lot to it. Once you can get past the surface, you see that wow, there's a story here, and there's a lot to get behind. It's a show that it has a heart to it. It's not barbaric. It's not for idiots. There's a lot more than just slapping a guy in the face. That's not everything there. So if you've watched to the end of the video, thank you. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button down below. I would love to make more content about Powerslap. I'm sure that the company is going to put it out. This will be the first of many pay-per-views, and if it takes off, we'd love to be along for the ride. So from myself, the Sauce Boss, and from John Cable, thanks for coming around to Over the Top. Thanks for listening to the show. Hope that you watch Powerslap on Saturday night, and we'll see you again down the road.